Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Maine-based artist Larry Clifford. Larry is the creator of the remarkable mixed media works known as BiblioQuilts. Using damaged and discarded books rescued from libraries, attics, and basements across New England, Larry transforms covers, pages, and spines into intricate quilt-like artworks composed of hundreds and sometimes thousands of carefully arranged pieces. His work blends visual art, storytelling, preservation, and sustainability in a truly unique way. Let's start by meeting Larry and then finding all about BiblioQuilts. Welcome, Larry. So delighted you're able to be here.
Thank you, Jay. I'm pleased, proud to be on Innovation Showcase.
Rather recently, and I think I mentioned to this beforehand, I had the wonderful opportunity to see one of your rather recent exhibits at the Brookline Public Library. Really caught my interest, admired seeing your work in person, eager to hear more and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if perhaps you'd share a little bit more about your background, maybe artistic, professional interest, please?
Sure, be happy to. Um, yeah, I originally started my career in the arts, and specifically, I was a biomedical illustrator. So, those are folks that, in my case, did rendered illustrations for medical books or biological illustrations and what have you. And the combination of art and science always interested me. And as you can imagine, that kind of work requires a lot of precision and a lot of
Mhm.
detail. And so it kind of it seemed natural that the biblio quilts I'm creating now also require very precise cuts and overlays. So, yeah.
Before we hear how it all came about and how you do indeed go ahead and create these incredible mixed media pieces, I think it would be informative to demonstrate to show viewers some wonderful examples of biblio quilts that you've created already, please.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully this comes up. There we go. Um, I'm, I'm I'm not that technology savvy, but in fact, that's the reason I kind of got out of biological illustration is everything became computer generated. And while I really appreciate the capacity of digital art, I was more old school. So bear with me if we have a technical issue here. But yeah, before I go into sort of the evolution of how this all started, I think you're right, Jay, to describe what a biblioquilt is, and then I'll show you a few examples. Basically, what I do is I will take old, discarded, distressed, damaged books, whether they come from public libraries or used bookstores. Sometimes individuals will send me books that really haven't seen the light of day for sometimes decades. They're tattered, they're moldy, nobody has read them. A lot of times they're boxed up sitting in storage, the attic, the basement, whatever it might be. And quite honestly, in most cases, these books are on their way to the dump or the landfill. So a public library will call me and say, we have a bunch of books here that did not sell at our annual book sale. And we'd love it if you would turn it into one of your biblio quilts because otherwise they're going to get thrown in the trash, which kind of breaks my heart. So I see this as sort of giving books new life. And my goal is to repurpose every part of every book that I receive. So I will use the covers, I will use the spines, I will use the pages, and my goal is to repurpose the pages en masse at some point by basically recycling the paper and using uh, some of that material in three-dimensional work going forward. But in terms of the two-dimensional work that I do, there is, let me see if I can get this to pop up here. Um, as you mentioned, there's a lot of pieces elements that go into these pieces. So what you're looking at here on the screen right now, these are the first six BiblioQuilts that I created.
Ah,
And um, and they're all the originals are 4 feet by 4 feet
wow.
in terms of size. So yeah, they're fairly large. And a piece like the one you see in the bottom center, I mean, it could be anywhere from 1,200 to 2,400 little pieces or elements. It could use anywhere from 100 to 250 books. And a typical 4 by 4 foot piece requires about 160 hours to complete, so start to finish. So it's really it's a labor of love. I mean, it's not like um, I'm going to make a lot of money on these. That's not really the purpose, but just the excitement of repurposing these books has been very gratifying.
No, when you mention all the pieces, I can see, as you referred to in the introduction, how your biomedical background and illustration is a nice transfer to this type of craftsmanship.
Yep, yep. And some of these pieces were laser cut, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And some of them were hand cut. And yeah, and I always, as a disclaimer, I always tip my hat for traditional quilters because even though I follow traditional quilt patterns, so you're going to see hexagons, flying geese pattern, rail fence patterns. These all have meaning to quilters. Um, but I am not a quilter by background or by nature. I think that's even more difficult because they're working in three layers. They're assembling their pieces with a sewing machine. I could never do that. What I'm doing is much easier. I'm simply pasting the elements onto a board that I'll talk about in a little bit. So again, I have great respect for traditional quilters and the way they go about their work. Um, so yeah, those 4 foot by 4 foot pieces, people love them. They said we really like your work, but they would say, quite honestly, we don't have the wall space for something that big, which I totally get. So at that point, I kind of went in a different direction. I said, all right, I'll make smaller pieces. And here you see three examples of biblio quilts that use a circular pattern. And these are examples that were all laser cut. And as a 2 foot by 2 foot piece, now more people can afford to buy them or display them. And you also get a chance at this scale to really get in there and see some of the titles and the characters and the curious little illustrations from some of these books that were published decades ago. And back then, it was a real craft to assemble these books and produce the books. So I take uh, what quilters call fussy cutting. I'll take the parts of the books that I think are most interesting, and if they're not too damaged and torn apart, they'll show up in a biblio quilt.
Terrific, terrific.
Yeah. So
Well,
here's another example. In this case, using a triangular pattern. So again, you can see the different characters and the type and the copy. Um, you'll see some of these sort of a splatter effect. Um, what I'll do is if the book cloth is a little bit faded or worn, or if the pages just don't have a lot of punch, I'll hit it with some acrylics or dyes and just try to
Mm.
give it a little more intensity. Uh,
No, they're stunning.
oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I try to follow, for the most part, traditional quilt patterns. I have um, a great regard for American quilts, not something that I have a background in, but in particular, Amish quilts and Gee's Bend quilts for people that collect quilts and fabric art. They kind of know what those looks are and those terms, but for me, there was a learning curve involved. In this particular series here, what I was trying to replicate is sort of a woven rug pattern. So
Mm.
what you're seeing here is quarter-inch strips of book covers and book spines that were laid out side to side. And yeah, I was just trying to be playful with the palette and again create more of a woven rug effect. And this particular series was purchased by Fairfield University down in Fairfield, Connecticut. So
Wonderful.
they have it in their permanent collection. Let's see what else I have here for you. So again, this with these hexagons and these pie circle patterns that you're seeing here. I try to work big enough to capture, again, some of the illustrations and the words. Um, this series of six actually, each of these pieces was named or titled after each of the six New England states. And the books that came from, that comprised those pieces uh, came from those states. So, for example, right now, the work is down in Rhode Island at a gallery in Barrington Public Library. And the bottom center image you see here is titled Rhode Island. And on the first day of the exhibit, someone walked in and purchased it. I'm thinking mostly for that reason. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I was
And
pleased.
I know for viewers who might be in Rhode Island, the following month, it's going to be in Westerly, I believe.
That is correct. Yep. So not this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, but the following weekend, I'll be transferring the show from Barrington to Westerly. And on the 30th, which is a Saturday at 1 o'clock, I'll actually be doing this presentation at their library. So if anyone's in the neighborhood wants to stop by, I'd love to meet you.
When, Larry, for the sake of time, like to move on and have you share how your lifelong love of books first evolved into the idea for creating these fabulous BiblioQuilts.
Sure. Well, going back to my adolescence, so we're talking over 50 years now, I've always had a knack or a propensity for collecting interesting looking books, and they don't necessarily have a lot of commercial value. I'm not a person who can speak to their literary value, but just books that were kind of banged up, but I thought very interesting. And as a result of that, I had tens of thousands of books piled up in our basement here in Maine, and my wife and I, we have lived in seven different states, and each time we box up the books and move them.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was getting a little tired of that. And during COVID, right at the beginning of COVID, she said, you need to do something with all these books. And she knew that really there was no market for them. So I just sorted them by color, like you see here, and just kind of pondered the situation. And
Fun.
that's when it occurred to me, that I almost see a quilt project here using, again, the book fabric, the book cloth that you see on the books. So much like a traditional quilter will go into a fabric store and buy fabric that they like or find interesting, I'll go into a used bookshop or a public library and I have the same impulse. I'll buy a bunch of books or they'll give me a bunch of books that I know someday I'll use for a project. And so that's how that all came about. Um, Probably the most difficult part of this process is tearing the books apart because
Mm,
I am a book lover, but again, I tell
yeah.
myself these are books that no one has read or cared about for many years. So um, I'll pull the covers apart, I take the spines off, I set the pages aside. Um, so what you're seeing here uh, on this slide is essentially my palette. These are the covers separated by color
Yeah.
in my studio. And so if I need some blues, I'll go to the blues stack and I'll
Ah,
pull what I need, that sort of thing. And then this slide shows what's left. So after I've removed the covers and the spines, this is the inside spine of the book. So this is the exposed, I call them carcasses, but uh, I do intend to use these as well. I just love the colors and the patterns that you see here, and eventually using an encaustic technique, which is an art technique using wax. I'm hoping to turn these into some fine art pieces as well.
can you take us now through the process of planning and then transforming some of the items that you just shared into these magnificent biblio quilts as a finished product, please?
Sure. Yeah, so the process starts with either a customer approaching me with an idea of what they want with in terms of a biblio quilt, potentially using a family member's, maybe a grandparent or a parent, use their old books. Um, or early on, I just came up with my own designs and
Mm,
ideas for a quilt. Um, and then I'll sketch that out. Then I will go to the stockpile of colors that I just showed you from my inventory, and I'll start to put some materials together that I think match up pretty well. That's kind of the fun part. I will then start to pull those pieces together and harvest the material, cut them to the right sizes and shapes that I need. Um, at first, well, here, why don't I talk a little bit about the materials I use? Traditional quilters will recognize a lot of these tools.
ah,
So, like the rotary cutter that you see there, the scissors, obviously, the X-Acto knife, even the green pad in the background, those are all materials that quilters use as well.
mm,
And so it was nice just having those at the ready. In the upper upper corner or the top of the photo on the left-hand side, you'll see the substrate or the board that I work on. Those are Comatex panels. Comatex material it's actually PVC material, much like the white pipes that you have under your kitchen sink. So it's very durable, very hard, and very forgiving. So I can start to lay out a piece on these PVC panels,
mm,
see the grid pattern on there. And if I don't like it, if it's not really grabbing me, I'll just take a putty knife and scrape it off, and I can reuse the
uh-huh.
board. So
Nice.
it's it works pretty well. Um, when I first started, as you can see here, so there's some book covers on the right-hand side, sort of in the beige and tan family. Um, I would use a laser cutter at the University of Maine to cut the shapes that I wanted because
Ah,
the book cloth was still on the cardboard.
mm,
And so it was nearly impossible to hand cut, and the cuts weren't really precise. So you can see here that the triangle shapes are all uniform. The hexagons are all uniform, um, which is all very nice, but you have to increase the intensity of the laser to the point where it would char the edges of the cut pieces. And my hands were black. The piece would had black soot all over them, and I thought that there's got to be a better way. Um, and then I realized, I can actually tear with these old books. I can tear the book cloth right off the book and the spines, and I can then cut much thinner material, and it's easier to work with. It does require hand cutting, but I have a little more control.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're seeing in this slide is some book spines and book covers that have been pre-cut, maybe 1 inch to 4 inch strips for a piece. And so this is what I'll do. I will sort them by color and design and kind of pick and choose what I need as I create a BiblioQuilt.
Larry, has your relationship with books changed since you began physically destructing them?
Well, I hope they don't hate me. I mean, not really. I mean, there are certain books that I will not cut up. If they're not damaged enough, if they're still in good shape, if they do have some value, I'll find someone that can use them for some other purpose, or I'll keep them in my own personal collection, or what have you. I still love to read, don't have as much time as I'd like, but yeah, I mean, that love of books and love of visual art is what kind of led to all of this. And I think I'll always have that close relationship with books. So,
Do you think, following up on that just for a second, do you think your pieces change the way viewers think about books and the value of printed materials in the digital age, which you referred to earlier, that we find ourselves in?
yeah, I think so. I think so. They seem to appreciate that these come from books, especially as you say, Jay, with artificial intelligence, we almost have to question every image that we see. In this case, people can walk up to the piece and feel the texture. I mean, feel. I no longer put glass over the finished piece because I want people to be able to run their hand across
Ah,
it
nice.
and appreciate the subtle three-dimensionality of the work. Um, It'll be interesting if during a show I'll sometimes just kind of stand back and watch people as they come in, because if they haven't really heard that the artwork is made from uh, repurposed books, they'll they'll kind of look at the piece and say, "Oh, those are nice. Those look like quilts or whatever." And then as they get closer, they'll be like, "Oh, those are made of books." And that aha moment is kind of neat. And it's not unusual for people to say, "Oh, I read this book," or "This is one of my
Ah,
favorites," you know.
nice, nice.
Um, so that's always kind of fun. So.
Larry, in the 5 minutes or so we have left, if you'd like to share a little bit more about the process or the way that you collaborate with institutions and others.
Yep. Well, this slide here just shows me pasting a piece together. And this was an interesting piece, and it really speaks to the collaborative process that I like. It was delivered just a few weeks ago to a client in Vermont, and it was commissioned they have a big uh, book festival, a literary festival in Woodstock, Vermont called Bookstock. And so they sent me a bunch of the books that they were unable to sell in their past events.
Ah,
And they said, hey, if you create a biblioquilt for us, we would like to use it for posters and note cards and what have you to
oh, nice.
try to make money for future events. So that's the part of the process that I really love is collaborating with others, and them providing input and having ideas. This series here was created for a customer who had just moved to Maine on the day of the total eclipse back in 2024. And they said, we'd love it if you created a piece, and we titled it Path of Totality, to just help remind them that, yeah, the day we moved to Maine was the day of that massive eclipse that much of the country could
Oh,
see.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. Um, this one was done for the Maine Craft Association for their Ruby Jubilee, sort of a gem quality. This one is a little bittersweet. This was a client who lost her 33-year-old son to cancer, I believe, and he was an avid reader. And she said, I'd love it if you would take some of his favorite books and create a couple of biblioquilts or smaller pieces, one for her and one for his grandmother. So, that kind of approach, that kind of connection, to me is what makes it all worthwhile. Um, I guess as a last item here, um, these were some pieces that ended up in the collection of some New England icons. On the left-hand side, you'll see that piece over the television.
Mm,
That's Doris Kearns Goodwin, the writer, historical writer. She, really liked the work, so she has that piece in her condo in Boston.
wow.
On the right-hand side, that's Ken Burns, who some people may know is a great lover of American quilts. So
Mm,
he's got the two pieces I'm standing with there. I thought it'd be fun to get a picture in front of his Peabody Awards and his Emmy Awards.
that's
So
fantastic.
that was kind of
To
fun.
see the reach and appreciation for your work. And as we get towards closing, Larry, looking ahead, how would you like your work to maybe evolve? What new possibilities do you see for perhaps storytelling through the repurposed books?
Yeah. Um, That's an excellent question because I am really at the juxtaposition of while I love doing these biblioquilts and I will always be open to creating one for anyone that would like one. I'm moving more into using the inside illustrations and pages
Ah,
and doing more collage work, and then also using the exposed spines that I showed you and doing more fine art work for galleries. So maybe getting away from these geometric shapes and really bold colors and doing things that are more subtle.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
How can viewers and others find out more about your work, keep in touch, perhaps contact you, Larry?
I think the best way, Jay, is at flyleafgallery.com. That is sort of an online gallery that I created after doing these for a couple of years. It's a great way to uh, see additional samples of my work, contact me about a commission, or order some pieces, or just share comments and give me new ideas. If someone has a bunch of books that they would like to see turned into biblioquilts, let me know as I travel about New England. I'm happy to swing by and pick them up.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, unfortunately, Larry, we have come to the end of the program. I want to thank you again so much for taking the time to be here. It's been fascinating coming to better understand and appreciate your creativity, craftsmanship, and just want to wish you continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was a real pleasure.
Also, want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.